All good stories should start with a prologue. So here's the one for this story. My wife and I, along with our dogs, plan a long camping trip this summer where we can be off the grid, basically boondocking. We've made reservations in multiple national forests throughout the Rocky Mountain region where we plan to camp, and so we want to be able to do it, but we also want to be able to have features such as our coffee maker working in our camper. After quite a bit of research, we found that Grand Design had very good reviews on their trailers, and we also found that they come solar ready, is what they call, or solar prepped. So we purchased an RB 2600, a 2024. It was delivered to us in February of 2024. And I have put this video together to complete the build out of solar so we can run our coffee maker while we are boondocking in the National Forest this summer. Follow along if you need help, and hopefully it will help you as much as the videos I've watched that other people have produced. My wife and I are the new owners of a 2024 Grand Design Imagine RB 2600. As you can see here, comes with the solar package on board, but we plan to go boondocking this summer, and we know that the solar that's on here is not adequate to support our needs. So let me just give you a quick rundown of how this is prepped, and I will say some unflattering things about Grand Design during this making of this video. If you notice on the main breaker panel, you see the 30 amp fuse. It says inverter, and that's all it says. Doesn't tell you anything else. And I'll go along with that. It does not tell you anything in any of the documentation on what that means or what good it does. I did find this 2-page PDF from Grand Design that I will put a link in the description where you can find this document that has some useful information but not everything you need. Now, in the pass-through, you will see there is this box and it says inverter prep. Once again, no documentation anywhere telling you what that means. So let's find out what is behind this panel. Removing, let's say 8 screws here, we'll see what's back there. Having removed the cover panel, you will see some wires, and from that we are going to make the assumption, going with the bad 2-page PDF from Grand Design, that this is going to be our inverter prep, the orange one, the inverter prep loop, which is not actually stated on here. It does have a couple of interesting markings on it. I'm guessing one saying it's the hot side and the other is saying it's not, but I will test that with a multimeter as I go along. We're going to need 3 items to make this work. We're going to need an automatic transfer switch if we want to switch back and forth between battery and shore power, and we're also going to need an inverter to be able to convert our battery power to 120 volt AC so we can run all of our appliances, air conditioner, and to be able to keep our dogs cool. So as you can see, there's nowhere really to do a mount here. I'm going to measure for a backing board on this side that I will put in there to mount my automatic transfer switch and inverter. So this will be ongoing, and I will let you know more as we go. As part of the solar prep, the camper does come with a charge controller. It's a 40 amp charge controller that is mounted on the top of the pass-through bay, and it does encourage you to install the Furion Solar app here. So I will be doing that to see how that might assist me. I started with this solar build out by showing the things that are actually pre-installed in the camper for the solar ready and inverter prep. So here's where we're going to go with the rest of it. I've modeled everything here in my garage before actually going through the install. I'm going to show you the parts, tell you where I got them, and then you can make your own decisions. And as I've disclaimed earlier, you're on your own. This is just what I did. So we need 3 additional parts. So we're going to need an automatic transfer switch. I've gone with the Southwire automatic transfer switch model 41300. It's a 30 amp transfer switch. 30 amp should work fine because the prep in the camper is on a 30 amp breaker. So we should be good there. Inverter, oh, ordered that from Amazon because that's where I could get as good a price as any. The inverter I'm going with is a 2200 watt Gendel, I guess, is pure sine wave inverter. It's bigger than probably what I need, but that way if I need to add more battery power in the future, we're ready for that. I actually ordered this direct from the company because it was cheaper than Amazon by a few dollars. Here's a hint. Since I've ordered it and since it's arrived, I've been getting notifications from Capital One Shopping that, oh, I had a price drop, so I could have saved another 20 bucks. But I already have it in my garage, so that's what it is. The camper came with a lead acid battery, 20 amps, pre-installed. That's not going to be even close enough to enough power because you can only discharge a lead acid battery to 50% of its charge before it starts degrading. I'm going lithium ion. I went with a 200 amp 12 volt lithium ion. I went with the Power Queen. I did order this from Amazon and had really good reviews on it. I'm hoping for the best. There were others I was looking at that were quite a bit more expensive, but this one we're going to see how it goes, and I can add more of these in series if I need to. Currently, as I mentioned, the pre-install comes with 100 watt solar panel on the roof. We'll talk about that in a future video. I'm adding an additional 200 watts, and will that work with this build out? It should, and here is why. The solar prep on the camper comes with a 40 amp charge controller, solar charge controller. So the solar charge controller is already mounted. It's in the picture. I will point out again. Solar charge controller then goes out to the battery. So that would be going out to where my red connection is here. Then coming back from that will go to the other cutoff in the pre-build that's already in there. From that, the battery cutoff will then feed into the inverter. And as you notice here, I've labeled, this says it's from the hot side of the battery cutoff that's pre-installed. This is just a ground. On the opposite side, on the inverter out, this is where power comes out of the battery. It's going to go into the automatic transfer switch into what is labeled as, and let's see if you can see this, the generator side. Generator in our case means solar. So we're going to go solar there. The shore power comes in the other side. That's this guy. And we're going to simulate shore power by looking at this plug, and let's just plug that in, and you'll hear a solenoid click as soon as I plug it in. Let's get that in there. There, heard the click. So we are now energized. So what does that mean? If I plug something in here to the other, to the outbound wire, and this was what we're going to be energizing our coach with coming out here. And if you notice, I've labeled this will be on the outbound side. That is where we're going to have power. So let's see if we have power so far. So let's look at this. Outbound. We're going to just test a little light here. We're going to plug it into what will be our coach, and we have power. So now the question is, how do we make sure we have power from the battery? How do we know? So the battery, the inverter comes with a power switch on it. So we're going to need this accessible from inside the crawl space where we're putting it. So I've mounted it on a backing board, which will be the new front cover to what I showed you previously, said inverter prep. The charge or the automatic transfer switch will be on the inside because that's closest to the yellow wire. If you recall back to the Grand Design 2-page PDF, which really didn't make any sense until you wired everything up, and then it makes a lot more sense. So this will be actually on the inside. This backing board's ready to go. All I have to do is screw it into place. So let's turn on the inverter, and you can see that it'll come up. Currently there's no output, nothing drawing, and it's on a 13 amp input. So in about 40 seconds or so, we'll hear the solenoid click again, and I'll cut out the time gap, and that will mean we're now drawing from the battery as opposed to drawing from shore power. So we're going to let this run for just a minute until we get the solenoid clicked and the switch over. There you go. And now we are drawing. So the output from here, from the inverter, goes into our automatic transfer switch. We've now switched, and we're drawing power from the battery. And let's look. And once again, we do have power coming in. And it's the same power that will be powering the coach. So now the next step is going to be taking all of this to our camper. 2024 Grand Design 2600 RB solar prep is what they have, and we're going to finish the prep to have the build out, and I will show you more as we go. Going back to what was done in the garage that we tested, here is my automatic transfer switch. I've labeled it with the ends up here of what needs to go in, and the output there will be from our inverter. In order to make the inverter accessible, I'm replacing that front cover with a piece of 1/2-inch plywood that I mounted the 2200 watt pure sine inverter to, so we can get to the controls over here if needed. The white wire you see coming out of it will go to the automatic transfer switch. That's where the power will come out of, and to the unit in that orange wire. So next step will be to cut the orange wire, this guy, after turning off all the power, determine which side's the hot, which side's the cold. Those will go with, as I have labeled on the automatic transfer switch. Looking here, we know we have a battery disconnect we need to wire to our new battery. Also, we have our solar disconnect here. So from the back side of that, it is currently going to the lead acid battery on the front. It's also going to need to go over here to our lithium ion battery. We need to reset or change the settings on our solar charge controller to be lithium ion instead of lead acid, and then all should be good. Will give you details after I get some wiring done. Orange wire has been cut. Took my trusty buck knife, stripped off the orange covers, took my stripper, stripped off this. Now keep in mind, one of these is now hot because I plugged this back into shore power. One of these is not hot. I'm going to go with the blue one. Wild guess here as being not hot. But let's see what the multimeter tells us. So let's turn this on. Black here. So if you go with this, you see multimeter still is telling me nothing. So let's see. So we're going to go with that, and so we'll continue our wiring. If you recall, we started with the inverter prep. That's all the documentation Grand Design supplied. The charge controller for the solar will manage 40 amps. That was stock in the unit, so didn't have to add that. If I go with more than 2 panels on the roof, I'm going to need to upgrade that to a 60 amp. I have my inverter mounted. It will be on the front of the panel that used to say inverter prep, because there is a power button here that you can turn on and off, so the battery's in use or not. The automatic transfer switch is wired. Here's the infamous orange wire, as we said. The cold end, as I'm going to call it, the one that didn't have any electricity going to it, it's coming out the bottom. Into the top is the hot end. On the right side where the white wire is, that's the one coming from the battery, which in turn is being charged by the solar. So I'm just going to button things up, put the front on the transfer switch, and then reattach the new cover to this box, which has the solar disconnect and battery disconnect on it. Okay, wrapping things up here. Everything's buttoned up, as you can see. No lights on in the pass-through. I have the battery disconnect off. I will turn the battery on. Whoops, the battery was on. Battery is now on. I will turn the inverter on. It says I'm got 13.2 amps there, or 13.2 volts, excuse me. And we wait about 45 seconds. We will hear the click. I will shorten that time up just for you guys watching at home. Keep in mind, I will be posting the links to the YouTube videos I watched to the gentleman that helped me. And then this is just one step beyond for the 2024 Grand Design RB 2600. There was the click. We are now on battery, and everything should be good, and everything is now hot. So that's what it takes to do it. I have to get the shop back in and clean it up, but we're all good to go. One more segment. I thought we were done after I showed you the install of the inverter and all of the components. But one more thing, since I did install the lithium-ion battery, I need to reprogram the charge controller, keeping in mind the industrial engineers at Grand Design did not take into account consumer usability. They mounted it upside down in the pass-through, so it's very difficult to get through. The solar or the app that's with the solar controller does not allow you to perform these functions, so you have to do it standing on your head. But I think I figured it out, and luckily I do have a master's degree in software engineering, and I can get this done. So from upside down, if you browse through here till you get to the indicator showing you that you're on the battery function, press for 1 second. You should get a flashing gear over here. I don't know how well you can see this. And then gel, AG, lithium. There we go. Press that. Uh-oh, that doesn't look right. That says I selected AG. So let's see if I can browse through lithium. And now it'll say 30 seconds and it should stay there. I should now be able to connect with my app. It'll show me the charge, or what's coming in, what's coming out. Back over here, our Solar Connect is on up here, so we can see if we are actually charging the battery. And that, I believe, concludes the series on my SolarBuildOut. Please follow us throughout the summer while we go boondocking, and you'll see if this actually works.